So it's 12 noon now. I think we're waiting for Mimi and we're waiting for Joanne Ferrari, Senator Stewart and Representative Ferrari, who will be panelists to talk about it. So the plan for today is very simple. I'm going to welcome and introduce our other legislators who are going to be co-sponsoring this amendment. And I actually think I've gotten some texts from people who are also interested in co-sponsoring, so it may grow, but the ones that are on board right now, they're going to talk a little bit about why they're interested in supporting this amendment, how they think it'll be good for New Mexico. And we'll introduce Maya Van Rossum, who is the author of
The Green Amendment?
The Green Amendment. It's backward. It looks backward on my screen, but she's the author of this book. And who's going to talk a little bit, hopefully, if there's any gaps that we left, she'll fill them in. I'm not sure if Shauna, I don't see her. But we invited the drafter, the person who drafted the amendment, to see if there's any other changes we need. But after we have the legislators speak, we're going to just have questions and answers from you and input from you. And then I'm going to conclude by asking you to join us. And I hope that during the process of this, we'll be able to convince you how this could be a real game changer in this state. So I'll go ahead. Oh, there I see Senator Stewart. Is Representative Ferrari on?
Yes, thank you.
Where are you? Well, okay, there's pages.
I also saw Senator Hamblin just got on, Carrie Hamblin.
Senator-elect. Oh, hi. How are you, Carrie? Good to see you. Excellent. Senator-elect Hamblin is on. That's wonderful. Well, so I'll just go ahead and start. I'll introduce, since Bill, and I know Mimi, Senator Stewart she's not gonna be able to stay on the whole time, but I'll go ahead and start with Senator Soules and then Senator Stewart, and then go to Representative Ferrari to talk about why they think this amendment is so important right now. So Senator Soules?
Well, thank you. And I first heard about it about 2 years ago at the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators, got a copy of the book and read the book all the way home and finished it on the airplane home and said, was like, we need to do this in New Mexico. I think we're ripe for doing it. We constantly are fighting against the polluters in New Mexico who use the argument, well, it's not against the law and therefore they pollute. And we've always used the standard that if you want to stop people from doing things, you have to make a law to stop them. And I see the Green Amendment as kind of flipping that over, that says the right to clean air, land, and water is a fundamental right. And you have to have permission to despoil those in any way. And by doing that, it doesn't mean, we all know that you're not going to stop all of the oil and gas drilling. You're not going to stop mining, but they have to consciously come and request permission that this is the best, most careful way of doing mining and other things, rather than doing anything that's not illegal. This puts the rights of people to clean land, air, and water as the standard, and you have to get permission to do otherwise, where right now it's the exact opposite. You can do anything you want unless there's a law against it. And so I think it's good legislation. It recognizes that, as people, we do need to have, we're going to be putting up solar panels on, square miles of land. And somebody might say, well, that despoils it, and the Green Amendment doesn't allow that. It's like the Green Amendment just says you have to have permission. You have to consciously go in, and if you don't have permission, then you can't do it. I think it's right for New Mexico. I will find it hard to hear people who are in opposition to it, because essentially opposition means that you have a right to pollute. You have a right to vent and flare into my air. You have a right to put things into the water wherever the water flows. And I think we want to view it in exactly the opposite, that we have a right to have nice things, and there are times we have to change that, and this amendment would set that up. So I'll be quiet now.
Thank you, Senator Souls. And I want to ask everybody if they could mute themselves while there's somebody speaking. It'll just make it easier to hear everybody. So now I'm going to turn it over to Senator Mimi Stewart to tell us her thoughts on the amendment and why she's supporting it.
Thank you so much, Antoinette. I want to thank you first for taking this on. Like Senator Souls, I met Maya Van Rossum through the National Conference of Environmental Legislators, NCEL, and I was so impressed with her presentation that I also took the book home. I don't think I've read it as thoroughly as Senator Souls, a shame on me. But, you know, New Mexico, I think, you know, Maya has said that we're kind of the perfect state. Let me tell you some of the reasons why we probably are the perfect state to do this. New Mexico has the highest percentage of methane in the air over our state. And if you've looked at some of the maps, the Four Corners region is this huge red methane cloud. Not only that, but we have several lawsuits in this state about our environment. Senator Cedillo Lopez and I are in one about the Kirtland plume. For 20 years, that underground plume fuel leaking out of underground storage tanks. And the Air Force has done nothing but study it. They want to continue to tell us how much of this is in there, how much of that is in there, how far it's gone this way, how far it's gone that way. But they've never offered a plan to clean up that plume. And it's going in the direction of the city wells. So we have issues in this beautiful state of ours. We have PFSs in the ground around Cannon Air Force Base. We've done a lawsuit against them. So it seems like it takes lawsuits and extraordinary measures to even keep a modicum of cleanliness in our air and water and the environment in New Mexico. So we have several toxic Superfund sites here. The lawsuit that Senator Cedillo Lopez and I are doing are trying to have the Kirtland Air Force Base treated similarly so that we can enforce the Air Force to clean up that plume. So, you know, that's all the stuff we need to do in New Mexico. And what better way than to bring in the public? The public will get a chance to learn about this and to vote on it. So we have a good process for these constitutional amendments. We only need a majority vote in both House and the Senate, and then it goes to the public. And then we can bring in, you know, so many of you that are on this call today, you're part of organizations around the state. We have a lot of environmental organizations in our state that will help us get this passed. The Southwest, New Mexico in particular, is very much at risk with climate change. The temperatures in New Mexico have gone up more than other Southwestern states. The drought that we are experiencing now, after 2 years of good snowfall, now we're suffering from the heat, the climate change increase that makes that snowfall disappear early on, rather than through the usual spring climate that keeps water in the river. So I just think that New Mexicans will want this constitutional amendment. I just want to thank Maya again for coming here, and thanks so much to Senator Cedillo Lopez, who really stepped up and is making this a good process for us all.
Thank you, Senator Stewart. And now I'd like to turn it over to Representative Ferrari.
Thank you. And yes, again, to Senator Cedillo Lopez for, leading the charge and for us to all be a part of this. I think this is so important. I'm on the Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources House Committee during this legislative session. And there are so many times that we have to listen to initiatives or bills that we have to be more protective of the what's going to happen if we allow them to drill, or we don't make sure that, you know, the wells are capped, and that we listen to so many communities that are impacted by the mining or the oil and gas industry. And it's like this, the Green Amendment will give us a way to be more preventive at the onset of these different initiatives, and so that we don't have to, it'll be more of a backstop for communities and local governments and businesses to be able to refer to this Bill of Rights, that we need to make sure people have clean air, water, and land, and not have to suffer the health consequences, such as asthma is really prevalent in Chaparral County, where we already have 5 gas utilities, and they want to expand to Newman 6. And the people of that community are saying, we're already suffering, you know, from the emissions that, you know, are in our area. So I think it's really important that we support the Green Amendment together and make sure that, you know, people have to prove the impacts are not going to be as detrimental as you know, we think they're going to be, and to make sure that they can be mitigated from the onset. And, you know, such as Holtec, you know, if they come in, and this is for generations that we could see the nuclear waste being stored there, and what happens with the different scenarios. They, with the Green Amendment, I think, have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this will not, you know, hurt southern New Mexico as well as the rest of the state. So that's why I'm so excited about the Green Amendment, and I really appreciate, you know, everyone being here to work together on, excuse me, on this initiative.
Thank you so much, Representative Ferrari. And I've gotten some messages from other legislators, but I'll just wait until they actually, you know, come and sign on, because people are excited about the idea of actually doing something and making a statement in the Constitution about what an important policy this is. Now, when Maya came to speak to me right before I'll tell this little story before I introduce Maya, but when she talked to me, my first thing was, well, we have Article 20, Section 21. And what she pointed out to me, and this is absolutely true, is because that put a duty on the legislature to make pollution of the highest, of the fundamental importance. It just, the way the courts are interpreting it is that it's giving legislative power as if we don't already have it. And that's a problem. That is a real problem. What this amendment does is it moves the concept of an individual right into the Bill of Rights, and it also speaks for future generations. So it's a bill for future generations. I think that the Article 20, Section 21 was called the Anti-Pollution Amendment in 1970 when it was passed, or 1972. I think it was passed in 71 and effective 72, or vice versa, or yeah, around that time. It got the most votes of any of the 10 amendments on the ballot that year. And I think they would be so disappointed to see how little it has mattered. I think this has the potential to be a game changer. It will give citizens the right to demand free air, clean air, clean water, clean land, and protect their public health. And then the twist in the amendment as we have now is from talking to Native American groups, it also has culture, to protect the culture values of the land, the air, the water. And I think that is very important in our state. So that's how it differs from the model here. And we want more input. We want, is that enough to protect the values of our Native communities? Is this bill strong enough? It's specifically self-executing, which means there doesn't have to be legislation accompanying it to create a right of action. And so that's very important as well. But I will now introduce the author of the book, Maya van Rossum, who she gave me the book. I was a little bit initially doubtful. I read the book and I called her and I said, I'm in. This is really important. And I have worked with her closely, and anything that I can do to push this forward, I will do. So with that, I'll turn it over to the author of the book, The Green Amendment, Securing Our Right to a Healthy Environment, Maya.
Great. Thank you so much. And I really am just so grateful to Senator Cedillo Lopez and Senator Soules and Senator Stewart and Representative Ferrari, who were so quick to see the value of having a green amendment in New Mexico. And I've had the great honor of meeting with and speaking with many of you on the call. And for some of you, this is a new introduction, and I really appreciate that opportunity. And really all I want to do, I think that the senators and representatives spoke very eloquently about the values of a green amendment and highlighted some of the most critical aspects of this constitutional environmental rights amendment that makes it dramatically different from something like an Article 20, Section 21. And really just want to emphasize for you that I am here to be a resource and a partner, right? Like, I know that I'm not from New Mexico, and I don't pretend that I could come in and make this happen. I just want to work with you as a partner because I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of knowledge with this concept. That's why I founded the National Green Amendments for the Generations movement, and would really be truly pleased and honored to be able to work with you, share my experience, share my knowledge, help us work together to develop tools and messages and messaging and outreach that can help advance this idea in the state of New Mexico. And anybody who wants to know anything more about the substance or what's happening in other states or where this came from, I'd be pleased to speak with you at any point about it. But I know you're here to hear from and speak with the legislators, so I will just leave it at that, and just am pleased and honored to be able to join the team.
Okay. With that, I guess I'm looking. I don't see anybody's hands up. But I guess if you put up the easiest way would be to raise your hand in the little participants column. There's a little icon that says raise hands, and I'll call on you, and you can ask your question, make your statement, give your input, and we can have a conversation. There's so many of us that I think if we just all unmuted and started talking, I think we'd go nuts. So let's just do it that way. Okay, Claudia Kiesert.
Hi. So Senator Cedillo Lopez, how could we help you? What can we do to support you as an organization?
Well, you can contact your legislators and tell them how important this is to you and important that they vote for it. And then you can talk it up among people that you know, write letters, op-eds about this. If you haven't seen the book, or go to the website and learn more about it, and take aspects of it that I think that will be relevant to your particular community. I think that farmers would like this because it would protect their land and their water, the things that we need for our food. And so, and it'd be great to have an op-ed from that angle. I think young people would like this because this is actually forward thinking for their generation. And I think they would appreciate that. So different groups will have different angles on it. And I think it's important to get those out. Anyone else have any comments about how Bill or Senator Soules, I forget, Senator Soules, Senator Stewart, or Representative Ferrari?
I'd just like to add, even though we're going to have a really different legislative session in 2021, we still will have public comment available. So we need to make sure that with the different committees that are going to be hearing this bill, people send make public comment, and even all of the different committee members are sent emails. I'm not sure how messages are going to work, since we don't have a lot of phone issues. So people, as groups, you can help us track the bill and then approach the different committee members by email or making public comment, and in support and why this is important to you.
Thank you.
And if I could, I might add also when you're contacting members of committees, probably not necessary to contact me or Senator Cedillo Lopez or Senator Stewart or Representative Ferrari. You know we're on board. Find the people that are less likely, that are on the edge, and find a reason, give them a reason why they need to support it. And particularly if we can get Republicans, find a way to give them a reason to support it rather than a reason not to support it. That's the way you really are going to get things to go through smoothly.
So let me just also add that, am I correct, Senator Cedillo Lopez, that you're going to try to pre-file the constitutional amendment? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So
And the language, there was a question in the chat about the language. With the reminder, with the Zoom reminder, the current language as it exists now was sent. And so that is what has been drafted by our Legislative Counsel Service.
Okay. So pre-filing happens between January 4th and January 15. You could track what's been pre-filed because then you can talk about the constitutional amendment with its number. Now there's a possibility that it won't be assigned a number until the first week of the session, which starts January 19. But you can still talk about it after it's been pre-filed. You download yourself a copy from NM Legislature website. They'll have pre-filed bills. You could contact Senator Cedillo Lopez. She could also tell you about that. So it probably will go, all constitutional amendments in the past anyway, have been assigned to the Senate Rules Committee. This one would then go to probably conservation. So that's probably how it will still work, although it might be different. And in the House, I think it'll go directly to energy. So those are the committees. Conservation and energy are probably the first two, and in the Senate rules. Unless we change everything and we stop sending constitutional amendment to rules, which I don't think we'll probably do in time. So that's where the bill will be. That's where the constitutional amendment will be, so that you can see who's on the committee, what the number of it is, what the language is, etc.
Thank you. Those are great responses. I have, can you describe whether this would create a private right of action or any other enforcement mechanism? The fact that the bill is self-executing means that it creates a private right of action under the bill itself. That is what is so important about it. So that if and it's a limitation on government. So it doesn't create a lawsuit between neighbor against neighbor at all. What it is it's the government not or permitting something awful to happen. So I think that's huge. Because I've learned over many years as a law professor that the law doesn't change until it starts costing businesses something, and activities don't change unless it starts costing. So that we've gotten a lot of consumer protection laws, a lot of changes in laws when people started suing about the harms that were being caused. And pollution is a huge harm in our environmentally fragile state. And I think it might be harder to sue on behalf of the climate, but it would be a right to, a right to sue because of the pollution that is being caused and hurting an individual. So yes, that's really important. I have, Paul, go ahead.
I was just going to say, maybe it would help to give a couple of examples of how the Green Amendment has been used in Pennsylvania and Montana.
Absolutely. Maya, you want to do that?
Great. So there are only two states currently in the United States that have a Green Amendment. That's Pennsylvania and Montana. But that can give, and their language is a little bit different. Frankly, New Mexico's is much more robust, and we've brought it up to sort of modern times and included some critical environmental justice and indigenous protections in the language, working with Senator Cedillo Lopez. But some of the ways it's been used in the other states is it's been used to challenge legislation that was passed that was deemed to, if implemented, that it would rise to the level of violating the environmental rights of the people of Pennsylvania. So we were able to defeat some very pro-fracking legislation as being unconstitutional. We've been in the state of Montana, it's been used to actually void out and nullify permitting that was given to very damaging gold mining operations, because in one case, because of the level of environmental harm that would result, and in the other case, because of the failure of government officials to actually consider the science and the impacts, to not do a full and robust analysis in order to ensure that the permit wouldn't result in constitutional violations. And so the court nullified the permits. In Pennsylvania, we've been using the Green Amendment to press for drinking water protections from PFAS contamination, where there were no drinking water standards being advanced by the state. We've also been able to use it in a situation where there was a highly contaminated toxic site, well recognized as being very dangerous for the environment and for human health by government officials, and where there were actually known responsible parties. And the government has been failing to take any action to clean up that highly toxic site. And so we are using the Green Amendment to actually force action out of the government where there is inaction, either for the government to clean up the site themselves or to force the responsible parties to do it. And there's also been some successful litigation with regards to the misappropriation of environmental protection funds and misusing them for the general operating budget. So you can see, whether you're talking about legislation, regulations, failure to act, the need for drinking water protections, cleanup, permitting, investment, right? There's a wide array of ways that this Green Amendment creates a very powerful action that the people can bring. But as Senator Cedillo Lopez highlighted, right, the action is focused on what the government is doing that either results directly in a constitutional violation or actually is empowering somebody else, like the gold mining industry, to undertake action that would ultimately result in constitutional violations.
Gosh, I'm torn between the chats and the raising hands, but I'll call on Paul Gibson next, and then I'll just go through all the chat questions. I guess what I'm going to say is, if you're raising your hand, put the question in the chat, and then I'll call on you along with the question, because I think it'll be a little bit better to follow, because I'm already confused with this. So Paul.
Yeah, welcome, and thank you for this, Maya and Antoinette. I just wanted to let people know that two things. One, Retake Our Democracy Today published its priorities for the 2021 legislative session. We obviously don't have bill numbers, but we have a bill list. We know these bills will be introduced. And we also launched a statewide advocacy strategy designed around advocating for bills now or in the next month. And we're organizing a statewide network focused on the Senate, and with teams for each Senate district, so that they can organize constituents to talk to their legislators. And we may not have to talk to Antoinette, Bill, and Mimi about this bill, but there are other bills. And so I'll put in the chat the link to the bill list, and we're having a Zoom on Friday at 3:30 among advocates who have been involved in planning this to discuss and advance that strategy. And the Green Amendment is one of our top priority bills. Thank you for organizing this.
Thank you. Here's another one from Allison Seawick. Is there an organization taking the lead organizing groups to read legislative advocacy? We don't have that now. Maya's organization, the Green Amendment organization, has been providing a supportive and organizational role and talking to individuals and whatever. We don't have, and now I'm very happy to hear about Retake Our Democracy's tier system, but I don't think we have a New Mexico organization specifically doing that. I don't know, Maya, is that, I see your hand raised. So Maya, do you want to talk a little bit about that? What your
Yeah,
role
so-
is likely to be?
So we actually have a steering committee of individuals and organizations
right.
that are meeting on a weekly basis by Zoom. And we're getting together and discussing strategies have really invite people self-select whether or not they want to join. And the idea is, at least our experience in other states, is this is best when we have a lot of leaders, right? Because it's a constitutional amendment where we have a lot of organizational leaders all going off, doing our thing in our own way, in our own communities, but doing it in a way that's coordinated. And so if you'd like to be part of the weekly discussions, or, we are creating resources, talking points, and other documents that organizations can use, and inviting everybody to put their logos on it. So it shows to legislators and communities the wealth of organizations that are coming on board in support of this, and showing that we are all trying to coordinate. But everybody's going to have their own take on this and their own voice and has their own perspective. But great organizations like Retake are on there, and others. So we will follow up with information if anybody's interested in just being part of that collaborative discussion, or just seeing what resources are out there. And and you can add your logo to it, or you could take the language and do your own thing with it, right? It's just all about advancing the good idea, and all of us being leaders in our own way.
Allison, did that answer your question? Did we answer your question, Allison? Okay. So the next one I have here is, it seems like support from farming and ranching will be critical, but their support is not a slam dunk. They're likely to be concerned about being criticized for water use or pollution, grazing impacts, et cetera. Is there a plan for getting the agricultural community on our side? And Christopher, you can unmute yourself and add anything. I think that we really should develop a plan, because in my own personal opinion, we need to prioritize water use for agriculture and not fracking. And we need to prioritize clean water for agriculture. That's why another thing I'm working on is a produced water amendment, because I'm very concerned about making that, and this would help, but also I'm very concerned about what they're doing to the water, and what that impact that might have on our food supply. So Christopher, anything? I don't know. So if anybody wants to develop that plan, let me know. Christopher?
Yeah, thank you. I'm with 350 Santa Fe, and so I'm not an ag expert, but I just know that ag is important in New Mexico, and it always punches above its weight politically. And I just think, given the likely opposition and sort of this histrionics I think we can expect from the oil and gas industry over this amendment, it's going to be really important to have powerful allies in the ag community feeling comfortable that this is not threatening. So I agree with what you said about water use, but there are environmental impacts from agriculture, and especially the more industrial forms of agriculture could be held accountable under this amendment as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although I think we need to really reassure them that our goal is to make sure that they have clean land, clean water, and that they're able to do their jobs. And I know what you're saying about the industry, but really most farmers know how important it is to conserve the land for future use, but we can definitely talk to them. And if anybody wants to work with me on a strategy, I grew up on a farm, not a big, massive one, but and I have brothers who are still farmers. So I'd be happy to try to do something in this with people who also could help me. That would be great. So just let me know if you want to. Thank you. Thanks so much, Christopher. And then from
Senator-
Terry is, oh, go ahead.
On that point,
I'm sorry,
Senator.
Terry. I'm Joanne, Representative Ferrari.
Yes, thank you.
You
I
came to
wasn't
my
sure.
front page. I'm so excited.
We, on the food, hunger, ag and water policy committee, and talking about all of the things with agriculture and farm to table and all of these different issues. That group, I think, if I presented it to them about endorsing or supporting the Green Amendment, would be very much on board, because, you know, we are grappling with the climate change and how that affects the drought. And then if we have, you know, whether it's humid drought, it affects how plants won't grow, how we have less water. So these are things that, you know, I think they would also support.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And the soil is so important.
So yes, that's part of the.
Thank you. Senator Stewart, Senator Souls, anything else? Any other comments? Let's see, can it be used to force federal action? Probably not. No, the state doesn't have power to force the federal government to do anything. So probably not. And I don't know if anybody has anything to add. That's from Athena. Oh, Athena, somebody who I wish was a colleague in the Senate.
Senator, on the federal action, and you may know better, is while it might not be able to force federal action, could it prevent the feds from doing something in New Mexico because it violates our Constitution?
Well, the law on that, as I understand it, is that you can stop the federal government from violating state law as long as it doesn't interfere with their core function. So I think you've got an argument there because they do have to comply with state law. So I do think there's an argument to stop something. Like I said, you can't force the federal government to do something, but perhaps you can stop them. In what would be a core? I know this as well in the immigration context, because one argument is we could stop ICE from going to the courthouses because while it's their core function to detain people, it's not their function to detain people at courthouses. So that's how I think about it. And so I think we can make that argument. Oh, and I see Maya.
Yeah, so I think that was a very important point that you made. So I won't emphasize that. I think you did that beautifully. And I would just also suggest that there are a number of situations, actions and activities where there is some strands of state or local approval that the federal government needs in order to engage in its actions and activities. And so when you have that state function, then that's where the Green Amendment can come into play in guiding how the state whether or not it gives that necessary approval. And just to highlight that the Green Amendment applies to all government officials where their power emanates from the state. So it's the governor, the legislators, all the way down to the local town council and everybody in the middle, like all the agencies. So that's important. And I just also note, like in the context of Holtec, one might recall that it was about a year ago where the state legislators were trying to pass a law in order to give themselves more authority when it came to a project like that. Now, the law didn't advance, but had the law advanced, then you would have had a Green Amendment hook, right? Because that there would have been some level of state approval necessary for Holtec. So there are different ways for the Green Amendment to impact federal government action. But you're right, Senator, in terms of, you know, coming in as a hammer and saying, no, 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 it's got to be a little bit more finesse than that. And that's why ultimately down the line, we do ultimately seek to secure a federal Green Amendment, but strategically that's a few years out.
You know how states are a laboratory of ideas. This would be a good laboratory. Okay. Can you clarify more about how each branch of the state government shall act as trustee? Well, I'll start by taking a stab at it. in New Mexico, the water and the minerals, the oil, the gas, and natural resources under our Constitution belong to the people. And so the state, we are trustees. That's why one of my values is stewardship. We are the trustees of this land, and we are the trustees of this, of the oil, the gas, the minerals. And I think we should steward it appropriately. And so what this amendment does is very specific to talk about our trustee responsibility toward the land. Does that clarify? This is from Teresa Seamster. So Teresa, unmute yourself and yeah.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So this is Aaron. Unmute yourself. What efforts have been made to encourage bipartisan support? I know many of the larger organizations I spoke with were concerned that they would not be able to support until there are arguments for bipartisan support. These talking points would be very helpful. I don't know. Let me give it some thought, and one of my colleagues would be, I guess I don't see how this isn't already bipartisan. I mean, who would argue for the right to pollute? And so I just think that it's already bipartisan, but let me give it some more thought. And I don't know if one of my colleagues has a better answer. Senator Stewart, I see your hand.
Yes, I think, you know, the mention of talking points, we will be working on all of that. And Maya has plenty of materials that we can use and that she will help us. So we will have little one-pagers for you to use when you talk to people and when we all talk to people. So, you know, these are really great questions, and we're really kind of in the beginning of getting this ready for prime time. And this is really going to help us. So thank you for these.
Erin, was that helpful, or do you have any other ideas to give us?
Thanks. Yeah, and I'm Erin LeBrake. I'm from the Friends of Valle de Oro. Sorry, my my Zoom has been crashing when I put the video on, so I had to kind of hide behind my logo here. But yeah, I think that was really helpful. You know, I had assessed, our group is part of several coalitions in Albuquerque that really focuses on green space access. And one of the issues that we really deal with, our wildlife refuge Valle de Oro is surrounded by industry and 3 Superfund sites, and a community that has really fought and advocated for a healthier community that really suffers disproportionately from air and water pollution due to that industry. And so we're part of multiple coalitions really working on this environmental justice issue. And some of the bigger ones, it seemed like that was a common response, that it would be harder to get approval, I suppose, to really promote this if they didn't feel that there was bipartisan support, if there was demonstrated bipartisan support, or really those talking points or those arguments for why this should be bipartisan. And so I think in order to get some of those larger organizations that have a lot of resources when it comes to lobbying for these types of efforts, that'll be a really important thing to flush out prior to approaching some of them.
I appreciate that. I think we all do, and I think it's something we can work on. I worked with Senator White, although he's no longer in the Senate, on a water bill. And so he was the first one I thought of talking to, but we'll think about what we can do to do that, Erin. It is a great question. Thank you. The next one is Cheryl Harris. I have a question on enforcement by agencies acting with companies rather than reactive court actions. Will existing agencies have the authority then, based on the Constitution, to deny actions by companies? There won't be any new agency created. No, this wouldn't create a new agency. And Cheryl, if you'd unmute yourself, the constitutional amendment, this constitutional amendment would give them guidance and would establish state policy, which I would hope would help the agencies. They still would have to comply with the state laws and their rules, and they don't have any extra authority other than what's given to them. but it certainly would be a strong policy statement. And I don't see the need for any new agency. Cheryl did that, and I don't know if anybody else had a comment.
Yes, and it was along the lines of Teresa's question on trustees. So they would operate as usual, but they just have this constitutional amendment as a kind of a hammer, kind of a extra layer.
Well, just like the First Amendment, our agencies cannot violate your First Amendment. Our agencies, you know what I mean? It's like that. The Constitution is the state constitution is the overriding, those rights are individual rights. So if an agency, if the agency tried to do something unconstitutional, it gives you the right to take action against them.
Right. But over the years, there's been a lot of court cases that have developed what freedom of speech means and how it can be expressed and everything. So I would imagine over time, there would be court litigation on this that would help define the authority of it or the extent of it, or, yeah, okay. It sounds good to me.
Good point. Anybody else want to answer? Also, when this passes in the legislature, is there a group is there a group leading communication efforts to engage and promote, this is Erin again, to New Mexico citizens? This is another concern of some groups we spoke with. All of that needs to be created, Erin. All of that is going to be something in the pipeline. Senator Stewart, Senator Ferrari, Senator Souls, any?
Yep, all getting made right now.
Yep. Why the need? It certainly does not address. Okay, so Ralph Rons, unmute yourself, Ralph. Wants to, he feels like the proposed language doesn't really, the language itself doesn't say why the need for the Green Amendment, and doesn't address why Article 20, Section 21 comes up short. That's a very, very good question. We had a long discussion about whether we should repeal, just leave Article 20, Section 21 there, or repeal it. And the group ultimately concluded that repealing it was cleaner, because the language of Article 20, Section 21 makes protection of the environment of fundamental importance, and it's directed to the legislature. So it's really just a policy direction to the legislature. And this amendment would be something, as Cheryl pointed out, for the courts to interpret. And we worried about them seeing some kind of conflict in that amendment, because it also has some language about for the benefit of the people, that they would balance the interest for the benefit of the state or something. You know, it had some language that we thought that could confuse courts. So we thought it was cleaner, but your point is well taken. We really need, and this was Erin's point as well, we need a good messaging strategy. If you would unmute yourself, Ralph, did I answer your question? Ralph? I don't see Ralph. I hope I answered the question. Anybody else have a comment about that? I just think the important thing is messaging about this, because the language has to be constitutional. So we usually don't have a big explanation in the laws for why the law is being changed.
And Senator Cedillo Lopez, I'd just like to add, this is Representative Ferrari, that besides just the legislature, the Green Amendment will also give guidance to the Public Regulations Commission when they're contemplating approving different things. So I think it's really important that we go much broader than just the legislature.
Can I just offer? So I think Senator Cedillo Lopez, you explained very well why the repeal of Article 20, Section 21 was really important to alleviate confusion. Also, from a messaging perspective, it will be clearer. I think that the collaborative working of all the groups on the messaging, and everybody, you know, helping to deliver a common set of messages, or at least complementary set of messages, is going to be powerful and and important. And that's really how, how all good grassroots work gets done. I do want to say, though, in terms of the understanding of what the Green Amendment accomplishes, first off, because the language is, key elements of the language are similar to what exists in Pennsylvania and Montana. The Supreme Court decisions from those states are going to be really good guidance for understanding what it means to have a constitutional right to a healthy environment and what it means for government officials, what their duty is to protect those environmental rights. Senator Cedillo Lopez talked very powerfully about the trustee obligations of the state that the Green Amendment brings to bear. That the way that trustee language is written, it actually brings into the interpretation of the language by legislators and the courts trust law. And trust law is actually quite clear. There's a very robust set of cases around trust law, around trustees having the fiduciary obligation of prudence and loyalty in treating beneficiaries impartially and equitably. And all of those threads from trust law really become important elements of the interpretation and the application of the Green Amendment, along with the creation of the individual rights, which means that environmental rights do get treated similarly to other fundamental rights like free speech and freedom of religion. So while the interpretation opportunities there and information is actually a lot more robust than might be initially apparent. And also the legislative history that's going to get created around the advancement of this Green Amendment by legislators, right, and by the public record is going to be really important down the line as courts are charged with interpreting the application of the Green Amendment. And that's where all the legislators and all the grassroots organizations become so important for creating that legislative history to inform what the lawyers and the judges do with this eventually.
Good point. Excellent. The next one is why are, and we will, we will definitely work on these things. And what are the Native American protections? Does this include cleanup of past and present pollution? Gosh, I wish we could do that. The Native right now, and we will get more input from Native American, from tribal leaders and from Native American activists to see if this is sufficient. But the big change that was made to the other ones is it has cultural, which would protect things like Chaco and protect things like, Taos and ceremonies and making sure that that the land is protected for their cultural use and that it's kept clean for the cultural use. And so it gives an additional hook for Native American Native American communities to say, look what you're doing to our water. Most legislation is looking forward and not retroactive. So it wouldn't really give authority to clean up the messes that have been made. Like, for example, I'm sure you're thinking of the Navajo Nation and uranium but yeah, that's what I see. And we welcome more input. Kim, if you would unmute yourself and see if that answered the question, and also of I see Maya's hand.
So sorry, go ahead, Kim.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in response to Beata's question, one of the things that we've been able to demonstrate, right, and this is common in environmental protection law, often government inaction can be deemed to be action. So again, there is that situation in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania where there's a highly contaminated site, and there is and was a role for the state. And so we are using the Green Amendment individually and in complement to existing state law to actually force the state to have to pursue a cleanup. So there may be, of course, places and spaces where this won't work, but if we can make an argument of that state obligation, again, sometimes inaction can be deemed to be action, and there a Green Amendment. That was the same with the drinking water protections that we're advancing. You have PFAS contamination of drinking water supplies. the state government was failing to do anything. So we're using the Green Amendment to say, no, you are duty bound to act because of your trustee obligations and the individual rights. So you can't give too much of a blanket, but I think that the senator was spot on, that there are going to be places and spaces where it won't work, but there are going to be opportunities where we really could perhaps find that important foothold like we are doing in Pennsylvania and Montana.
Ooh, and I like that creative lawyering there. That is creative. I like that. Okay, Paul's got, we do need to focus on water. Thanks so much. Okay. This is from Eleanor. Unmute yourself, Eleanor. Can we recommend that organizations focus on the legislators from Senate Rules and Conservation and House Energy once we know who they are? Eleanor, that's absolutely right. And I think Representative Ferrari made that point. Those Rules and Rules Committee is going to be crucial. Conservation Committee and House Energy. Big thing is we don't know who they are now. So as soon as we find out, nice to see you, Eleanor. Did that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah, it sure does. And I'm a lobbyist, and this is just makes it a lot easier for strategic lobbying if we focus on the people who are going to be hearing the bill right off the bat. So we'll know soon enough, and we'll hit them really hard.
This is from Beata Sosi. Thanks for the meeting. I'm wondering about language in the amendment not being explicit for managing mineral rights. I'm also wondering what tribal considerations are in place for protecting sovereign nation rights. What support has been extended from New Mexico tribes, and also if there can be language to give public lands back to tribal nations for management, in addition to restoring the mineral rights on existing tribal lands instead of leasing to extraction companies in the spirit of land back movement to restore stolen lands to the original caregivers. The public lands piece needs to have greater consideration than those are stolen lands and part of keeping Native peoples in poverty by not giving them back. Another issue on this state is on the cultural landscape is protection of heirloom and seeds. That might need specific language or else food systems in addition to ecologies. That being said, I'm happy to support this. Those are all such powerful points that Native communities have. And if you have some specific language that you think could improve it, right now it's the cultural piece. Yeah, that's pretty much, but there are already state requirements to do tribal consultations, so the agencies already have to comply with that requirement. So adding it to this amendment, we'd have to think and really think about whether we can how to make this stronger. I guess I shouldn't say whether, how to make it stronger without being repetitive and also just doing justice to what you're saying. So please come to one of these meetings so we can talk about it. And certainly, I don't know, Maya, if you have any thoughts or any of the other legislators?
So, I would be thrilled to continue that conversation. One of the things I do want to offer up is that those trustee obligations and the trust law that I talked about, that is really very powerful from an environmental justice perspective and for protecting Indigenous communities in a much more powerful way, along with other communities of color. So we can talk a little bit more about that, but we do have a lot of resources. The other thing that language does is it really is very powerful from an informed and transparent decision-making process, in that what we have been able to demonstrate through litigation is that the trust language really does forces the state agencies, legislators, others, right, to have to look at things like cumulative impacts. They have to do an analysis of what is the state of the situation in a community now today before the government takes the action that they're proposing to take, and what will be the ramifications of that action. There is this robust requirement to look at the science, to look at the facts, and again, to treat all communities equitably. So it may not be spot on, Beata, with the points that you're making, which I agree with Senator Cedillo Lopez are so important. I think we can think and talk more about it. Some of the threads may be there, and if the senator is open to sort of thinking if there are some other opportunities, we can think about that and talk about that. But I do think there are a lot more robust elements in the details of this Green Amendment, which we just couldn't dive into as deeply, you know, in this moment, but can do in follow up to the call. You're on mute, Senator.
Oops. Unmute yourself, Pieta.
Thank you.
I was telling you to unmute yourself, I was on mute.
That was a big comment. And also just on the flip side, it might be worth looking into existing tribal constitutional law that might be in conflict with this. Thinking about, I guess, in my brain, Diné communities that are leasing private allotments to some of these industries that might bump heads with the state. So yes, it's like having that trust that tribes will protect their mineral rights and like want to protect their environment, but there could be tribes that want to mine, that want to do extraction. And so how, just thinking of those considerations, you know, of like, it might be worth that consultation with tribes to get them to adopt this into their tribal constitutions as well.
That would be awesome, because that's the only way we could do it, because we can't tell them how to manage their resources. So if they were interested, this would be a great project. Thanks. Let's see. Oh, okay, so Ralph just said his microphone wasn't working, but I hope we answered. So Maya, will minutes or notes of this meeting be made available for people who are unable to attend? We're actually recording it so that it will be available for people who weren't able to attend. And that's where I am in the chat. And we're actually at 1:02, so the timing is perfect. I want to really encourage you to keep in touch with us, to join the group that Maya talked about. That when do you meet, Maya?
So we once a week on Wednesdays, we have a conversation with everybody who self-selects. And I think if there, as a result of this discussion, if there was sort of an influx of people, maybe we could do a Google and plan for a special time with a little bit more time to accommodate a more robust discussion. But generally we meet Wednesdays, like right now. So, and are happy to open up that opportunity to others. And again, it's all about our sharing the knowledge and partnering and sharing resources to help everybody become a leader on this. And so look forward to that. I do want to note, I did get a message from Terry Sloan, who is very active in our Green Amendments for the Generations movement here in New Mexico from day one. And he just wanted me to let folks know that we really have worked very hard to reach out to tribal leaders, have met with the All Pueblo Council of Governors and their Natural Resources Committee on multiple occasions, and have been working hard to do individual outreach. Of course, COVID has really complicated things, but thanks to Terry's help, we have been able to make a lot of important inroads and are happy. You know, we really do need to do a more robust job. So any help to make those connections would be really valued and appreciated, because they are important. So we've gotten some input, but agree that more robust input all the way around would be helpful.
Great. So Maya, did you put your email or whoever they should contact in the chat, so that to do these weekly meetings, these weekly strategy meetings? And the Senator Soules, Senator Stewart, and Representative Ferrari and I will talk about, you know, as we get this input, changes to make it stronger and better. As you know, bills start and they get stronger. And this resolution will need to pass both houses. Then it doesn't go to the governor, it goes straight to the ballot. And so we're gonna, after we get this done, there's gonna be a huge community education thing that we're gonna need. What's interesting about what happened in the 70s with Article 20, Section 21, is they did very little outreach, and it still passed with more, at least they didn't do any visible outreach in the newspapers, because I did the research in the newspapers. There weren't a lot of stories about it. There were a couple of things that just generally summarized it, and it passed with more votes than any other amendment that year. I know we have to do a lot more than that this time. It's a completely different world. And so all of your help is just going to be so important. And I want to ask you to help us make this happen. Anything that you can do. As Maya said, kind of a lot of flowers blooming is really exciting when you're talking about a grassroots movement. But contact me and contact Senator Souls, Representative Ferrari, Senator Stewart, and let us know what your thoughts are. With that, do you have any other closing remarks? Senator Souls, Representative Ferrari, Maya? I see that, yeah, Senator Stewart told me that she was going to have to log off, so she's not here.
I'm fine. I'd just like to thank everyone here who is accepting of this great initiative, and hopefully all of your groups and people that work with you on, climate and environmental protections will also be supportive, and that it would really be nice if we could get this through in this first session and not have to have it go on for years when we lose all of those opportunities to protect our environment, which we have to do so immediately. So thank you.
Senator Souls? Oh, okay, he's shaking his hand saying so. Thank you so much. We can do this, and we can do it together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much, senators and representative, and all you wonderful New Mexico leaders. I look forward to working together.
Bye-bye.